time for Q&A session. So if you have anything to share with, we can learn from each other. Sometimes it's wrong to insist that only one way teaching, which is you learn from the monk. No, it's not. A 3 years old child can be your teacher too. So we can share, we learn from each other. Please. Thank you. Yes, please.
So in this journey of steadying my thoughts through the practice of meditation and what I take away from here, I have been observing, well, I guess the most recent example would be having dinner tonight. And I noticed with me, I have this, I love food. Like, I love to prepare food. I like the whole experience. It's wonderful for me. But there's a fine line when I can overeat and make myself sick, right? And today I realized that I'm not as mindful as I can be while I eat. And I think I was able to understand that at a different level because of that kind of consistency of meditating and just sitting still and quieting the mind.
I remember during my study in the forest, I encountered with the word mindfulness a lot. My first initial was that, and that's it. But actually there are more to it. And a lot of famous American teachers discussed about the mindfulness. It's not easy to understand the word. I myself, that word alone took me about 2 years to understand it. Through the practice, you deepen yourself into the intrinsic nature of the consciousness. And the more you observe carefully, the more you learn from it. And like I said, the journey takes a long time, even a lifetime, even many births. But that doesn't count because of, just like the slogan of Nike Air, just do it.
what was the Pali or Sanskrit word that was translated to mindfulness?
I can't remember, but something like a Sambhajana. No, I can't remember. I'm sorry. A lot of teachers gave commentaries on the mindfulness with different perspectives. But there are two main elements of mindfulness is that the knowing and remembering. The knowing is naturally takes place, so it's we don't have to discuss about. But remembering is very important. You remember to return back to your primary objects. It's just like that shooting a gun. Before you shoot, you have to pull the trigger. And it's just like that. Don't ignore the word remembering because of, I think lots of people ignoring the word remembering. They don't accept the word remember. I don't know why. Because of, as of right now, you are mindful with a purpose of listening. But as soon as you lost the purpose, you are still kind of aware, but that is not fully be mindful. You have to go back, and once that you remember that, I lost my mindfulness, then you return to your primary objects. During the process of losing, as you said, actually, you did not lose your awareness. It's just that pay attention closely when you sit. You see the flowing thoughts. That is kind of awareness. But when you have a purpose, you go back to your primary object, which is the breath, which is the rise and fall of your abdomen. Then thoughts stop. And it takes a lot to gain the remembering, so you can go back to your primary object.
So Thay, I'm sorry.
Either way.
So to apply that, so about 6 months ago, something happened that made me really fearful. So I'm trying to learn to live with the fear. Every time certain actions takes place now, I get that same fear. So how do I apply this mindfulness when I have this fear?
You just said that you live, you try to be with it.
Yeah.
That's how it should be. There are two ways. what way is it if the fear becomes dangerous to yourself, or you couldn't take it anymore, then it's the best is just to reject it. But if it is just a state of mind, then stay as close as you can. Then we can learn from it. In Buddhism, there are two applications. The first application is that just like a bee hovering over a flower in a distance. This is a flower, this is a bee. A bee is hovering in a distance. So the bee recognized a flower, but it doesn't really see in details. So the second application is that the bee has to go closer until it landed on the flower. And right there, it can taste the nectar. And that's what we should be. Rupert Spear suggests that stay as close as we can, as close as just like that. You know that your eye, that's how close it is, that the object and the eyes. So close that you cannot separate them anymore. And right there, one, we can study what fear is. And second, we can study the nature of fear. The nature of fear is that transience. Nothing stay forever. Nothing. For a while, it's gone. It's gonna go away. Just like that you said, as of right now, the fear that existed before.
What if it occurs again?
It's part of it. It's part of the game. Part of the game. Accept it and learn from it. Don't run away from it. That's how we learn from it. Having this body have the entitled of a conscious being. We cannot get away with fear, as well as we cannot get away with love or courage or whatever the mental state is. Remember that. Just remember that. Cannot get away. We have moment of love. We have moment of compassion. We have moment of greed. Then we should have a moment of fear. If one of those mental states lacks of, then it's not fair. It's not fair. Just like that. The nature renders many wonderful things out there, as well as disasters out there too. So the fairness is that if there is this, there is that. If there is one, then there is two. Just like that. Remember that we have to learn, and this is what we have to learn. And there's no way we can escape it. Fear is just like part of us. And it's just like happy is part of us too. Just like death is part of us too. So everything is part of us. And if everything is part of us, where would we put that aside? No. It stays within us. And it's just a matter of recognize it and non-attach from what it is. That's how we learn from it.
And someday it'll disappear, the fear.
No. Don't think of disappearance. Don't think that it will disappear. It's going to stay in low profile. And because of what I say that I become less angry. Maybe sometimes it takes a couple of months for an anger arise, but it is still there. And I interviewed if I heard a great master within reach that I will go direct to him and interview him. I have a chance to interview Bhikkhu Bodhi. And he told me the story. He has an attendant going on a trip with him. And for years, he said that I thought that I already eradicated anger. But then on that trip, the attendant kept going to the bathroom all the time, and every time he went, he said, "I'm going just a little bit." But his little bit took like 20 minutes, and then he became angry. And he wondered himself, holy crap, anger's still in me. And he's a great, great master, Bhikkhu Bodhi. So don't trust yourself, don't trust your mind until you reach at least the level of arahant. Something like that. And then you can trust yourself, your mind, with okay, next.
A question about fear. You say, will it go away? Does it go away every time it comes? It doesn't? It stays for you forever?
No, not forever.
Okay,
It
it does
stays
go
a-
away, right?
Yeah.
So that's your answer. It doesn't go away. It's only temporary. So all you need to do when fear comes, just like any other state, you observe it. When fear comes, how does it express itself emotionally to you? How does it express physically? Just observe the fear in those respects. And the law of impermanence will do its thing. Things, when the right condition comes, let's say you have a thought of something in the past that made you fearful. That thought almost just came, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you react to it, right? As if it was real. Right? You're replaying that fear. So when it comes, that's the condition for creating fear, right? Oftentimes, the reason that it stays is you're attached to a fear. You want to go away. It's just like if you want to detach from something, if you push it away, you're touching it, right?
Yeah.
You're involved with it,
Mm-hmm.
so it's there. Now, we don't get involved. So we watch how it manifests in your mind,
Mm-hmm.
your emotion, your body. And then if you watch long enough, you'll see the law of impermanence take place. Disregard how long it takes. Don't worry about it disappear right away. Right? But just observe how it expresses itself. Observe the life of fear, so that you can understand how it manifests, and you can realize that it doesn't last forever.
So do I need to solve how it manifests?
No.
Okay.
No
Just
need
solve
to.
what occurs inside.
What is present is what you observe,
Okay.
right? The thought that came up, that's in the past already. What's present is the fear that you have right at that moment.
Mhm.
It's no longer about that thought that brought the fear, but it is the fear itself. How does it exist? Right? Are you tensing up somewhere? If you can observe that, if you notice that, watch that tension.
Mhm.
See what happens. And just breathe and just watch that. Or how it manifests. Maybe you're able to observe the emotion aspect of fear. So you observe that, and you see it goes away. So there's no need to wish it to go away. It will go away. It's a matter of time. The better you maintain your concentration without reacting to it, the quicker it will go away.
Mm.
Doesn't mean that it goes away forever.
Right.
The thought may come back again. But each time you do that, you retrain the mind to not react, but to observe. By observing, you're taking a step back. You're already disassociating yourself from the fear. You're not pushing it away. You're not ignoring it. You're confronting it
Mhm.
moment by moment. So that's the practice.
Okay.
May I comment? Share my experience? He's right.
Yeah. The fear.
Fear, anger, rage.
Uh-huh.
If I didn't have this practice that Tang just described, I'd be one of those people you read about in Yahoo News who did something out of rage
Oh.
and anger.
Okay.
There's nothing now I can do about the person who triggered or instigated or fed that rage into me, because
Right.
it's too late now to address that
Mhm.
person. But this rage keeps coming back,
Right.
and I observe it.
Right.
It's a mental state that arises. Now I'm just repeating what he said, but whenever it comes up, I do what Tang says.
Okay.
And
So-
over time, it comes back weaker and weaker.
Okay.
Sometimes it'll come back stronger than it did 2 times ago. Sometimes it comes back weaker, but I think over the course of maybe years or decades,
Mhm.
if it took a year to develop, it'll take a year to erase. If it took 20 years to develop, it'll take 20 years to erase it.
Wow.
It's not overnight.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a constant practice for me. But he's right. The technique is right. I do what Tang described, and I'm not going to repeat what he said because I can't say it any better.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's
Thank
right.
you. Yeah. Thank you. I was thinking, do I need to deal with the cause? But it sounds like I don't.
Pardon. There are causes that have to be addressed on a practical level. Every April 15, the closer April 15 arises, the more anxiety I experience. No amount of meditation will get rid of that anxiety.
Right.
That requires a practical
Mhm.
solution.
Mhm.
Just get my documents together and take
Right.
them to the tax person. Once that's done, then anxiety goes away.
Yeah.
So some things do require practical solutions. Some things are just a mental state. Some are both.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's very helpful.
In mundane life, you guys have a lot of issues to deal with, and so that cause fear arise. As well as peace, calm, equanimous. All of those mental states have a conditional response to it too. Let's say monks quite often said, "Oh, I'm at peace." I'm peaceful, I'm happy, I'm calm. It is not that himself intrinsically, naturally be peace or be calm. Check back closely. You see that his background has been secured already, and that's why that's why he's peaceful. It's just like each of us here right now. So that when it's peaceful, check back. Say that you have a house, the mortgage is paid off, you're in perfect health, your job is stable. What else you're asking for? And that's why you are peaceful. That is conditional, peaceful. As well as fear. And related to it. Very easy to check it out. Very, very easy. Just tell yourself that I'm going to sleep on the street for one night. Let's see what's going on. Then we can talk about peacefulness. It's all about conditioned. And we don't recognize that, as well as fear. It's all about conditioning. So, the more that you pay attention to it, in Buddhist teachings there are 7 steps to enlightenment. One of those is the investigation. Take that element and apply it in mental state of fear, of happiness, of whatever it is, and then one can find out certainly why it happens.
I want to describe my mindfulness experience when we're doing the walking meditation. When we're walking on a plank, I feel my heels, the flat of my foot, my toes. I feel sensations from that corner to this corner, and then I can feel it on this carpet because the texture changes. I can feel my footsteps on that carpet where you're sitting on because that texture changes also. But by the time we get to that side of the room, I'm a zombie. And when we're back on the back of the room, I'm a zombie again. Then my mindfulness returns when we're back on a wooden floor. I'm not able to maintain mindfulness for a whole circle. I just have to keep remembering after I forget. And I'm not able to sustain a state of remembrance. I keep forgetting to be mindful. I just keep trying to remember to remember.
Thank you for sharing that. I myself did the same thing. So, we are pals for life. It's not easy. As I said, that actually, in mindfulness, we have a close stage, which is a concentration mindfulness. That's why that you can actually experience the lifting, the touching, the moving, and the sensation of the planes, and the difference between the plank and the compass. But as you come over here, that you thought you lost your mindfulness, no, the sense of awareness is still there, and that's why you still can report it back. You didn't lose it. But in that stage, you become open out more without any primary object. Remember that. It's very important to understand this step right here. The concentration which all details are manifesting. The openness is just like the bee that hover far above. The bee can see the flower, but didn't see anything. It still can see the flower. The first application. So actually, you didn't lose your mindfulness. You didn't lose it. But it's just a kind of relaxing out. That's all. What have lost is that if you actually identify yourself with something, then that is an actual lost. But in your state you described, I think that it's just an open awareness. And during the practice, it takes years for you to do concentration, and it takes years for you to do open mindfulness. And then you interchange between those two methods. Or either that if something that going to be dangerous to yourself, and then you become mindful. It's just like that. When you walk on a beautiful path with flowers on the side, you enjoy and you don't pay attention of anything. But then, as you approach, there is a sign saying, look, there are broken glasses on the ground. Then you pay attention a little more. You pay attention. You are afraid of stepping on broken glasses. Then you go a little further down. You say, you saw a sign said, beware the tiger and cobras. Right there, your mindfulness jacked it up to the max. You look, you open your eyes, and you beware of everything, because of the tiger or a cobra could be anywhere. So those three stages we all go through during the practice.
So that means a sniper, an assassin, a burglar, a thief are practicing mindfulness.
Mindfulness applies to every situation, even though it's bad or good. A burglar, he will be very mindful so he don't get caught. A sniper will be very extremely mindful to aim at the target.
So the practice of mindfulness doesn't necessarily lead to love and compassion.
Mindfulness is a neutral state, neutral mental state. It just like the sensation. Sensation is sensation. The sensation doesn't lead to love or hatred. No, it's just sensation.
So love and compassion are independent of mindfulness?
Actually, when we practice, then the love and mindfulness will be part of, love and compassion will be part of mindfulness.
But not to a sniper or burglar.
No, it's not, because of the two mental states. They use mindfulness in the service of shooting a target, and the monk uses mindfulness in the service of love and compassion. So it's totally different.
Like a surgeon using a knife in the service of saving a life.
Yes,
Or using
saving a
knife
life
as-
or killing,
just-
or killing. Yes, yes. So
So think about mindfulness is training the mind to be attentive. So mindfulness, we're always mindful. It's not like we, our son, have no mindfulness, right? But in the practice is selective attention. When we're conscious and we have selective attention to something, then we're being mindful. Is that right? Then?
Yes.
Right? We're always conscious around us, right? It's not like we don't know what things are. Sounds are coming in and we hear all that. But mindfulness practice is knowing, realizing all that, but we selectively choose an object to be attentive to. Right?
Yes.
So, does that mean that compassion is in there? No, because compassion is an intention. It's different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because I've been wondering for years when love and compassion comes in, because in Buddhism, mindfulness is stressed heavily, but in Christianity, love is stressed heavily. And I was wondering where they would ever meet, or if they were perpetually parallel to each other, parallel paths. That's why I brought up the sniper being mindful.
one thing that I'm 1,000 or even 1,000,000% sure that when you reach some certain level of mindfulness, you see that it is all about love and compassion. It's not an intention anymore. It just, because of this is the natural quality of a human being. It's just that way. I'm 1,000,000% sure for that. This is not an intention anymore. This is not a deliberation anymore. It just love and compassion, because there is nothing else. There is nothing else that, let's say that you practice to be a piece of rock. Is that you're aiming to? Or is that you practice to be in harmony with nature, with people? If you practice to be a piece of rock, then that's, I don't think
No, I practice to control my intentional attention, to be attentive, consciously attentive to what I'm doing, and there is a certain joy in that, not being lost in my thoughts. But I've been wondering, when will this make me feel loving? Loving is something I have to intentionally develop,
very soon that when
separate
you
from the mindfulness practice.
at the level, a certain level of liberations, then there's nothing else but love and compassion. And they don't care for self-liberation anymore. It's just because it exceeded the level of liberation. It's just love and compassion. And right there you can find joy. If you practice to be a piece of rock, then there's no joy in there. There's no joy in there. It's very easy to understand. It's extremely easy to understand. So at first, love and compassion, you raise your intention in order to have love and compassion. Yes, that's fine. That's primary step. But as you go on, and then you see every famous master will say the same thing. Love and compassion is at the end.
Here's what I found perplexing. As a former Catholic who once wanted to become a priest, in my experience, you can experience love and compassion without ever being mindful.
Because it becomes very natural, innate already. So you don't have to think about love and compassion in order to do it. It just flowing out naturally. It's just like a famous Tibetan Lama said that when you truly enlightened love and compassion, dawned on everything.
That's only if you're enlightened. Before that, it is the practice of awareness, right? The key ingredient in practicing or to start having some compassion and kindness is through the Four Noble Truths. Through the first truth, what is suffering, right? And if you're able, using mindfulness, every time you suffer, right, or stress, and you really understand what suffering is and how it affects you, and you understand that your loved one can be affected the same way, that's when you start to see suffering in others, then compassion, you have the availability to have some compassion. Right? So there is a compassion meditation where you wish a loved one to be free, not suffer, and then you go on contemplate friends, and then you contemplate people you don't know all the way, and you contemplate for yourself, and also you contemplate. The most difficult part is you practice contemplating, having peace, wishing peace and happiness for people you don't like. So those are the steps.
That's a separate practice from the practice of concentration, mindfulness, where you're just concentrating on the sensation of each footstep. Those are two different paths.
Not really.
Two different practices, I mean.
There's two different practices, but the practice of concentration itself and mindfulness itself, what are we mindful of? Okay. When we ourselves are suffering in whatever aspect. You have to see and understand and go through the process of suffering and realize that completely, right? And then when you see other people suffer the same way, then that's how you relate to others. Okay. And that's how you start to contemplate empathy.
Okay. I understand that in reference to the Four Noble Truths, but when we're walking, I'm just focusing on each footstep. I'm not practicing the Four Noble Truths.
No, you're practicing concentration awareness.
Yes.
And having a strong awareness practice will help you in being more aware of suffering, your own suffering and others' suffering.
The practice of concentration and awareness will support the practice of loving kindness and the Four Noble Truths.
And it helps you see that.
Thank you.
So I guess it's Buddha's birthday this weekend, and my wife and I will be going to a celebration, and I'm very anxiety inside because I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. Do I just follow the flow? But I'm very nervous about it, but excited to see the experience.
Yeah, just go with the flow. Go with the flow. There's nothing to be, scared about. Just once you're here, because of you feel lost amongst Vietnamese people speaking Vietnamese, and that's why.
It's like a maze. I had no idea which direction to go. So.
And it's okay to come and observe, just like that. The master Ajahn Chah, people came asking that how do you teach your disciples? They don't speak Thai, you don't speak English, and how are you gonna transfer your teaching to him? And he said, so very simply, you don't have to understand. You just look and observe, and that's it. The same way you look and observe, with our any mental affliction, then that is the great intermingle.
I would say from my own experience, Han's a very dedicated Buddhist all her life, you know, and so we visit temples. When the Jade Buddha was here, huge crowds. One thing you'll notice right away, don't understand a word of Vietnamese or Mandarin or what have you, you can feel the spirit. I know that sounds strange, but if you open up and you watch people and you listen, you can feel it. And right there is an experience which you're not going to forget. And then, you know, it's not to patronize anybody, but it's really an experience that I missed in a lot of things until I started doing this. And it's very calming, it's very emotional. Even though you don't understand a word, you can watch faces and you can watch the children, and you begin to realize, you know, the compassion aspects, for sure, and the history and the dedication of those who are trying to teach. You know, if that makes any sense.
It does.
Oh yeah, you will. If it's your first experience, you will notice it right away. Yeah.
May we gain the true experience of love and compassion, which emanates from that which knows. You can call it whatever it is, the Buddha nature, the innerness, the suchness, the essence, or whatever. When you realize that on this Buddha birthday,